everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Phoebe and today I am going to be ranking all of my 5-star reads. I've collated all the books that I've ever rated 5 stars on Goodreads and we're essentially going to be ranking them to see if my tastes have changed or not. The tiers that we've got are 6 out of 5 all-time fave. So these are books either that I knew at the time were all-time favourites, or since rating them 5 stars I've still not stopped thinking about them and they are now kind of up there with my favourite books of all time. The next tier is still a 5-star, so they're not quite that like 6 out of 5 favourite ever, but they're still a solid 5-star. The next one is maybe more like a 4.5, so I still really enjoy it. I still think it's a really good book, but it's maybe not quite that 5-star feeling anymore. The next one down is 3 stars, so this is kind of if my tastes have changed a bit, and I'd still enjoy the book enough now, but it wouldn't be a 5-star. And then the last one is not for me, so books that my taste has completely changed. I don't think I would particularly enjoy it if I read it now. So we're just going to get straight into it, and the first book is Wildfire by Hannah Grace. So this is one of the books on here that I think my actual rating was like 4.5, 4.75, but I marked it as 5 on Goodreads. I've still included all of those because I feel like borderline books like 4.75, they could definitely go up to a 5, if that makes sense. So Wildfire I rated I think 4.5, 4.75, and I would say it sticks there. It's not quite a 5-star, but I still love it. It's still kind of held up. I didn't read it too long ago, it was only a few months ago, but it's definitely still held up. I still think about it. I'm definitely going to carry on with the series, so it's sitting, I'd say like 4.75. The next one is Reckless by Elsie Silver. I think I gave this 4.75, but looking back now I think I would just give it a 5. This is my favourite out of the Chestnut Springs series. It is Winter and Theo's book, and I think it's one of the ones that people usually kind of put in the middle, that they quite enjoyed it but it's not one of the top ones, but it's my absolute favourite from the series. I just love it. I don't usually like the trope in this book, but it was just done so well. I love the characters, I love their relationship. Next one is Allegiant by Veronica Roth. Let's do the whole Divergent series together. Where are they? Right, so we've got Divergent. I'm just going to put them in the bottom. I am going to move them. So we've got Divergent, Insurgent, Allegiant. So Divergent is one of my 6 out of 5 all-time favourite books. I love Divergent. Insurgent is the second one. I'd put still a 5-star because I can't 100% tell you what happened in that book, so I don't think I can say it's an all-time favourite, but it definitely holds up. And then Allegiant, I'm going to put in 3 stars. I gave it 5 stars at the time because I love the series. I won't say what the ending is, but I will say that I hated the ending of Allegiant. I didn't think it was necessary, I didn't enjoy it. So I think if I was to read this now, I read these like over 10 years ago. I think if I was to read it now I would definitely knock stars off for not enjoying the ending. Next we've got Harry Potter. So for some series, any series where I would rank the books within it differently, like the Divergent series, I put all of them on. But for like Harry Potter and the Hunger Games, all the books in that series are kind of on the same level in my head, so I've just put the first one. This is the Philosopher's Stone, but we're just going to use it to represent like the whole series. And I'm going to put it in all-time favourite because the series is my all-time favourite. J.K. Rowling, she's not for me. So if we had a little picture of J.K. Rowling, she'd be going right at the bottom tier, and I no longer kind of purchase like the Harry Potter books or anything. All of mine either I bought years ago or are second hand, so I'm not financially supporting J.K. Rowling anymore. But I still, if we're just thinking about the books, they are still some of my all-time favourites. I don't really reread them anymore because obviously she has kind of soured them in my head, but I do love the world and the characters. The next one is Girl Online by Zoe Sugg. I'm just going to say it, this is still a 5-star. Is this a literary masterpiece? No. Was it ghostwritten? Yes. I read this at a time in my life where I just really needed it. It's about anxiety, about a teenage girl that struggles with anxiety. And I just loved it because I was a teenage girl who struggled massively with anxiety. And I think I just read this book at the right time for me. And it's still a 5-star. I think I could reread that book now and still kind of get something out of it and still feel very warm feelings towards it. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in still a 5-star. The next one is Hopeless by Elsie Silver. This is the last book in the Chestnut Springs series and it is my second favourite one. I think I gave this 4.75 as well. I am going to put it, I should have named this something different because it isn't 4.5. Wildfire and Hopeless are both 4.75, but I'm going to keep it there. I don't think it's quite as good as Reckless in my head because the third act conflict in Hopeless really irritated me. I just didn't think it was necessary at all. So I knocked a tiny bit of a star off for that, but it still definitely holds up. I love it. I wasn't disappointed with Hopeless like a lot of people were. I could see why people were, but I wasn't. I just really, really enjoyed it. We're now moving on to a few older ones again, so ones that I read a bit of a while ago. 1984 I read like over a decade ago, and I'm just going to do it. 6 out of 5 all-time fave. Is this a book that drags a bit? Yes, it is. But I just love the messaging and everything behind it so much that I can kind of forgive the older style of writing. I find classics very difficult to read. I don't read a lot of them, but I just love 1984 and I still love it now, so we're going to keep it an all-time fave. Next one, The Year of the Flood by Margaret Atwood. I'm going to put that in 3 stars. I don't know why I ever gave it 5, to be honest. I can't tell you a single thing that happened in that book. It's part of a duology, and the duology was fine, but I think now I wouldn't even have probably read the second book if I read them now. I think I read this when I was at uni, and I felt very peer pressured by all the smart people around me to be reading like smart books like Margaret Atwood and classics and stuff, and I was just kind of forcing myself to like books that I don't particularly like. So we're going to put that in 3 stars. It wasn't bad, but definitely not anywhere near these kind of 5-star reads. Next one is Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. I'm going to put in maybe more like a 4, 4.5. I think I would give it a 4 now. I read this a few years ago. I don't remember much about it, but it's about, I think, a group of 3 friends that go to, I don't know if it is Comic-Con, but some like a con of that type. And it's a bit of a romance and it's very sweet, but it's not kind of an all-time fave. I wouldn't give it 5 stars now just because I can't remember it, so it can't have stuck with me all that much. But I do remember just really enjoying it when I read it, so we'll keep it at around a 4 star. Scandalous by LJ Shen. I'm going to have to put it there because I don't remember it. This is a series of 4 books, and I can't remember. They're not like full-on dark romances. At least I don't think so. But they're not kind of light rom-com fluffy romances either. They sit kind of somewhere in the middle of those. And I remember really enjoying this series, particularly this book when I read it. I just can't tell you the names of anyone. I can't actually tell you what it's about. So it's a series that I might need to reread because I read it when I hadn't actually read much romance, and I think maybe if I reread it and actually remembered it, it could be a 5 star again. But I just really can't remember anything about it. From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata, 6 out of 5, all-time fave. It's my favourite romance book I've ever read. Absolutely stands up. Just obsessed. Love it. The next one is a bit rogue. And it's My Mum Tracy Beaker by Jacqueline Wilson. If there's one thing about me, it's that I was a Jacqueline Wilson kid. I loved Jacqueline Wilson. I've been a reader since being a kid, and I used to pretty much like exclusively read Jacqueline Wilson for years. I just loved her books so much. This one came out in 2018, so it is a newer one. I'm going to put it in maybe more like 4, 4.5 because I can't remember anything that happened in that book. But for the nostalgia factor, we can't knock too many stars off. The next one is Heartstopper. Again, I've just put the first one to represent all 5 books that are out, and I'm going to put it in all-time fave. Adore Heartstopper. You can't quite see. Let me tilt the camera up. I have a whole Alice Oseman shelf, most of which is just multiple copies of Heartstopper because I'm so obsessed with it. I love the books, I love the TV, the Netflix show. Just obsessed, it's amazing. Everyone needs to read Heartstopper. Daisy Jones and the Six, still a 5 star. I'm going to put that, these aren't fully ranked within the tiers, but I'm going to put that right at the top of still a 5 star. Or, I don't know. No, I'm going to leave it there. It's very borderline being an all-time fave, but I just don't think about it as much as I think about the other books in that top tier. So we'll put it right at the top of still a 5 star. Red, White and Royal Blue, 6 out of 5 all-time fave. Obsessed with Red, White and Royal Blue. I've got a few copies of it on that shelf there that you can't quite see, but I just love this so much. It's a male-male romance between the first son of the United States and Prince of England, so it's great. It's got political intrigue, it's funny, it's sweet, it's just, I'm obsessed. Next we've got the Tilly and the Book Wanderers series. I think this is the only one in the series I gave 5 stars, but I gave the others like 4, 4.5. I'm going to put this one in that category. I can't remember enough about it, and I think because it's middle grade, at my age, I'm 25, I think I would struggle to give middle grade 5 stars now because it just wouldn't have the same impact on me. But if you're looking for just a bit of a nostalgic, really sweet series, I definitely recommend it. Basically, Tilly is able to go into books and she's able to bring book characters out of books. So like Anne from Anne of Green Gables just pops round and sits with Tilly and like chats. It's a really sweet book. If you like kind of those old classics like Alice in Wonderland, Anne of Green Gables, I think you would really enjoy this. If you're just looking for something really fluffy and really feel good, I would definitely recommend the series. Next one is The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I'm going to put it still a 5 star. Let's do The Handmaid's Tale while we're here because it is, oh I didn't mean to put Twisted Lies there. It is in here. There we go. I actually prefer The Testaments to The Handmaid's Tale, which again I don't think is very popular. I don't think people like The Testaments that much, but I just really like the format of it. I just really got on with it. I liked the amount of information that we were given. I can absolutely see why people would find it a bit boring and a bit of a drag, but I just loved it. And then Handmaid's Tale, maybe more of like a 4.5. I did really kind of get a lot from the story. I definitely recommend people to read it. I just preferred the format of The Testaments personally. Next we've got The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. I can't read the title, but I think that's the order that it goes in. And that is, again, near the top of still a 5 star. I really loved it. It's so sweet. It's just, if you're feeling like you just need a bit of comfort, read it. It's so quick to read. It's basically like the layout of a children's book, and it kind of is a children's book, but reading it as an adult you definitely get just so much meaning, even though there's not that much writing in there. It's just packed full of just really nice comforting sentiment, so I definitely recommend reading it. In the Shade of the Sun, I'm going to put in still a 5 star. This is a series about a man who goes travelling, and each book is set in a different place. Typically, I don't know if it's always a different country because I haven't finished the series, but at least a different city. Predominantly, from what I've read so far, around Europe, but I don't think all the books are in Europe. Could be wrong. Again, haven't read them all yet. There's currently 10 books out in the series, and it's basically like he's travelling and there's a bit of mystery. There's always something going on, but it's a very light-hearted tone. It's quite like, I don't know, just funny, easy to read. It's not a mystery like a kind of thriller mystery. It's more of like a fun, laugh along, follow along with the character kind of mystery. Very fun, definitely going to carry on with the series. Next is At Your Age, Eve Brown. I'm going to put it in maybe more like 4.5 because I just can't really remember what happened. I think Eve Brown is the one where she goes to the B&B and accidentally hits him with the car. Nick and Charlie by Alice Oseman, still a 5 star. This is just a little novella in between Heartstopper. If you Google the reading order, it tells you kind of when to read them. But yeah, it's just really sweet. It's just like a very small snippet of time where we get to see a bit more about Nick and Charlie, which I will take that any day of the week. Spanish Love Deception, still a 5 star. Again, is it a literary masterpiece? Absolutely not. Is it really good quality writing? Nope. But it is fun, and I like fun, so it is still a 5 star to me. Hands Down by Mariana Zapata. Again, I think this is one of hers that people don't tend to like. I love it because I'm obsessed with Zach. In this book we follow Zach, who is one of the male main character's friends from The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, and I just love Zach so much. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is one of my favourites of all time. The vibes in this book are so immaculate. I read it on the way home from holiday on the plane, and it just made me want to go back straight away because it's set in, I believe it's California, isn't it? That could be wrong. It's set on a beach and they go surfing a lot, and I don't go surfing because I don't really like the sea, but it was just the best vibes. Love it. I love the whole kind of Taylor Jenkins Reid universe, even though it's in our world, that she's created. It's just obsessed. The Love Hypothesis by Ellie Hazelwood. I think I did give this 4.5 and I would leave it sat at a 4.5. My favourite thing about Ali Hazelwood's books is just the humour. She's so funny. The way she writes is just hilarious. It's definitely like kind of cheesy humour. It's not kind of really tension filled or anything like that. It's just fun and just great vibes. The next one is The Legacy by Elle Kennedy. I'm going to put this in maybe more like 4.5 because I remember this is basically novellas following each of the off-campus couples a few years after they've left college. And I remember that I gave a couple of them like 3 and 4 stars, but there were others in there that I was obsessed with. So it's kind of hard to rate the whole bind up when I rated them differently, but I think overall I would give it like a 4.5. Next is All Rose Lead Here. I'm going to put this in still a 5-star. I think I actually gave it 4.5 when I read it, but I still think about this book and I read it like 2 or 3 years ago. So I think it has cemented itself as a 5-star. The setting of this is beautiful. The characters are great. I was going to say they're really mature. The female main character is actually quite like, I don't want to label her as quirky because we don't love that in books when female main characters are overly quirky, but the male main character anyway is very mature. He is quite grumpy, but it was just nice to read again something a bit different, because I feel like a lot of kind of new adult romances, it's quite cocky male main characters, and it was just different. Rose was just different, and it was really nice to read. Again, beautiful setting. Next is Ivy by Willa Nash. This is one of my favourite books of all time. If you didn't know, Willa Nash is the same person as Devney Perry. It was just an alternate name. I don't think she writes under Willa Nash anymore. But I love this book, and I feel like it's so underrated. We basically follow 3 girls. They all live together and they all get their own points of view. They each have their own romance. They each have other things going on in their lives as well that we follow. And it's just great. It's quite a big book. I have a physical copy of it here. It is quite chunky, but it just read so quickly because of the 3 different points of view. I can't get it back on the shelf now. Because of the 3 different points of view, you're kind of always wanting to keep reading to get back to all the different points of view, if that makes sense, because each chapter kind of ends on a bit of a cliffhanger and then you move to someone else's point of view. So it just reads so quickly, and I think it's just so underrated. It's such a good book. It gives kind of, it's not like Gossip Girl, but it gives Gossip Girl vibes. So I would definitely recommend giving that one a read. The next one is Fourth Wing. I don't know what to do with this. It's a very similar thing to Harry Potter in that the book itself is a 5-star. Rebecca Yarros isn't. So we'll leave it at that. If you are not aware, I would urge you to research her and her views on Israel and Palestine and make a judgment on that. See, I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but the book is good. The sequel is not. Rebecca Yarros is not, and we will leave it at that. Next is Twisted Lies by Anna Huang. This is absolutely still a 5-star. I'm going to put it near the top because this is borderline like getting up there with my favourite romances. I didn't love the rest of the Twisted series. I gave them all like, I think like 3-ish stars. But then Twisted Lies just came out of nowhere and was a 5-star. Obsessed. That is how you do a grumpy male main character, but who doesn't treat the girl like shit. Does he make mistakes? Absolutely he does. But he doesn't like just talk to her like shit just because he's grumpy. It's just great. Read it, please. Even if you didn't like the rest of the Twisted series, please read Twisted Lies. It's so much better than the others in my opinion. Next we've got Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. I think I gave this 4.5, but we're going to put it straight up to 6. I don't know why I gave it 4.5. I love this book. I think about it all the time. I'm constantly looking for romances that emanate that same kind of vibe that Icebreaker has, where there's not a big central plot line. There are a lot of characters. I can see why that bothers people, but I just loved it. The vibes are great. The couple's great. I love how sex positive these books are. I love how much both Wildfire and Icebreaker just celebrate women being women and being who they want to be and not judging them because of that, because they're a woman. That will make more sense if you read it. But yeah, I just love Icebreaker. Really great representation again. Both of the main characters are white girls, as far as I remember. But there's a lot of other characters that are going to have books later down the line, and there is a lot of representation there, so I'm excited to get to those as well. Next we've got Things We Hide from the Light. I think I gave it 4.5, 4.75. We'll put it right at the top of there after Wildfire, maybe after Hopeless. I stick with my original rating. Again, a lot of people don't like this. It's the second book in the Knock 'Em Out trilogy. I haven't read the third one yet, but a lot of people didn't like this, but I really did. I thought it was great. I liked the characters, I liked the story, I liked the relationship. Next is Inner Jam by Kate Canterbury. I'm going to put this in that same 4.5 just because I don't remember loads about it. I don't think about it very often, but I remember reading it and just being obsessed with the vibes and the setting. And I think there's a lot of pining because the male main character has really liked the female main character since high school. So it's always nice to see that kind of, I love a boy that's obsessed, and I feel like that definitely has that vibe, but in like a nice cozy I don't know, just a really nice kind of way. Next is The Book Thief. This is one of my favourite books of all time. I love The Book Thief. I read this on a plane on the way to holiday and cried on the plane because it's a very sad book. It is. Don't read it if you want a happy read. Next we've got The Score by Elle Kennedy. This is the only one in the Off-Campus series that I gave 5 stars. Even though in my head it's like a 5-star series, this is the only one I actually rated 5 stars and I would keep it there. This is Dean and Ali's book. They are my favourite couple. Next we've got Eliza and Her Monsters, if that's, I can't read it, but I'm sure that's what it's called. I think I gave this 4.5 and I would stick at 4.5. There was just one weird thing where there's like a group chat of 3 people who are friends, and I'm sure, unless I've read it wrong, I'm sure one of them's 14 and one of them's 22, and nothing happens between them at all that's romantic, but like, I just found that a bit weird that like a 22-year-old would be friends in a group chat with a 14-year-old. I don't know, I found that odd. Maybe I've misunderstood it, but other than that, again, this is not a happy book. Trigger warnings for mental health and self-harm and suicide. I can't remember if those things happen on page, but it's definitely discussed from what I remember, so definitely go into it with caution, but it's a really enlightening book. Shatter Me, again, this is here to represent the whole series. Now, I didn't give the whole series 5 stars. The later books I'm not a massive fan of, but in my head it's a 6-star series. We're putting it right up at the top. In my head it is a 6-star series. I love the Shatter Me series. I love Aaron Warner. Sorry for the change in quality and angle. My SD card got full and I don't have time to empty it, so we're just going to do the last few books filming on my phone. Next we've got Punk 57. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I love Punk 57. Move on. To Kill a Mockingbird, I'm going to put maybe more like 4.5. I loved this when I read it, but since going back and kind of studying it again, I taught this as well when I was still teaching, and I think it is still a good book and I could see its place in society at the time that it was written. But looking back now at the commentary of racism and the way that racism is dealt with in this book, it's definitely giving white saviorism. So I'm not going to keep it at a 5-star anymore. But I do still think about this book a lot. And obviously when I think about it, I always acknowledge the fact that it's definitely very white saviorism-y. It's not a book that you would read now to learn about racism. There are so many books now by people in the Black community talking about racism that are much better than this. But I think at the time that I read it, it definitely opened my eyes to a lot of things and was kind of a bit of a catalyst of me then going on and learning more and reading more books by Black people who, you know, do a much better job at talking about racism than Harper Lee does. Next, we've got This Winter by Alice Oseman. This is another little novella in the Heartstopper series. 5-star. Love Nick and Charlie. Will take any crumb of them that I am given. Next, we've got A Monster Calls. I'm going to put this in maybe like 4-star. I don't remember that much about it other than that it's really sad again. Definitely still a good book. I read it really, really quickly. I'd still recommend it if you are looking for an emotional read. But I just don't think about it often and I don't remember enough of it, I think, to now categorise it as a 5-star. Next, we've got the Delirium trilogy by Lauren Oliver. Still a 5-star, this holds up. This is a dystopian series and I used to be a massive dystopia girly. Still am. I don't read enough of it now. I love dystopia. But anyway, this is a dystopian trilogy. And in this world, basically you are given your romantic match. So they tell you who you're going to marry. They match you up based on kind of your job prospects, obviously your age, family, blah, blah, blah. And there are complications to do with that I won't spoil in case you do want to read it. It is quite an old series. I think it probably came out in like 2010, that kind of era. But I think it still holds up. I've reread it since then and I still really enjoyed it. Next, we've got The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. I'm going to put this at like a 4.5. But yeah, I really enjoyed The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. It's not my favourite Marianne as a part. I definitely prefer From Luke Off With Love a lot. Wall of Winnipeg and Me is long. It's that one there. And then that is From Luke Off With Love. So you can kind of see it's taller and thicker. So it is a very long book. It's very slow burn. The reason it's not a 5-star, neither of those things bother me because when I read Marianne as a part, I know I'm getting myself in for. The reason it's not a full 5-star and still isn't is because I just feel like Aidan crossed the line between being grumpy and being a prick. And I don't like that in romance. I love a grumpy hero, but I like it more so like, you can be grumpy without being rude and without being an arse, and I think Aidan at times was just a bit of an arse. But I would still recommend it. It doesn't last the whole book. It definitely warms up and opens up and does some lovely things for our female main character. It's just right at the beginning, he's not a particularly nice guy. Right, last few. Simon versus the Homo sapiens agenda. I would give that like a 4.5, 4.75. Still love it, I just don't think about it enough for it to be a 5-star. Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Still a 5-star. I would borderline, I'm going to put it like up at the top. I would borderline say, if I was to reread it and still enjoyed it, I think it would cement it as like a favourite of all time. It's just a great book. Again, it follows a teenage girl who, she struggles with pressure at school. She's seen to be a very academic person, but she doesn't want to pursue that. She wants to, is it art college? Something along those lines she wants to go to. She basically wants to pursue a creative career, but she feels the pressure to pursue an academic career because she's always been seen as the smart one. And I just massively relate to that. So, great book, definitely recommend. If you were like the gifted child that is now a burnt out adult, I would recommend reading Radio Silence. The Hunger Games trilogy, 6 out of 5, favourite. My iPad's froze. Where's it gone? Oh, it's there. 6 out of 5, favourite of all time, obsessed with the Hunger Games. Love it so much. And then is this the last one? Wait for It by Mariana Zapata. I would put in 4.5. This is a neighbour romance, and it's just got a bit of a different vibe to her other books, and I really enjoyed that. I just don't remember that much about it, and I don't think about it as often as her other books, but definitely great. I wouldn't say skip it if you are reading her backlist. I think it is a really good one. Again, it's not, well, it's got sports in it, but it's not the same like stereotypical kind of sports romance that she tends to write a lot of the time. And that is every book, other than like books from when I was a kid. This is pretty much every book that I've ever rated 5 stars, and I'm quite impressed that there's none in the bottom. I didn't expect that. I didn't think about this before I started doing it, but there's none. So I'm quite impressed that all my 5 stars are at least still a 3. Oh wait, no, Evelyn Hugo, I didn't do that one. It just landed in there. Evelyn Hugo is like a 4, 4.5. I don't know why I ever gave it 5, because it's just not up there for me with like Daisy Jones and stuff, but still a good read. Anyway, I'm impressed that none of them are in the bottom, that most of them are at least a 4. So I'm quite happy with that. I am reasonably picky with my 5-star ratings. I don't give them out too often. I think I only rate like 5 or below books 5-star last year. I definitely want more than that this year. I want to focus this year on reading books that I'm really going to enjoy. I want so many more 5-star reads this year. But clearly I'm doing something right when I rate 5 stars. I think I'm going to do a version of this where I'm going to rate my 4-star reads and see if any of those have gone down, but also go through my 4 stars and see if any of them have kind of crept up and are now a 5-star. So I might do that video in a few weeks. But thank you so much for watching this video. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. It helps me know what you enjoy and what I should film more of. All my socials, if you do want to see me elsewhere on the internet, are down in the description, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!